everybody. Welcome back. We're doing the circulatory system a little more, and this time we're talking about, the blood vessels, circulation, and we're going to look at the capillaries. So capillaries are what we call exchange vessels, and the reason for that is because they kind of do this thing where, here's the veins bringing the blood, and then when they get to the tissues or organs or wherever, they kind of like branch off into these lattices, and sorry, I did the veins instead of the arteries. I should have done the arteries. Okay, here we go. All right, let's do that again. I'm getting my good lattice there. There it is. Okay. So when fresh oxygenated blood comes into the tissues, it is going to kind of slow down into this like lattice area right here. And what this lattice is this is the capillary bed. And so it surrounds and it permeates and it penetrates tissues and organs and all that good stuff. And it drops off a couple of things. And one of the major things is, of course, like fresh water, quite frankly, fresh, clean plasma that has nutrients and all this good stuff. It also has oxygenated red blood cells for metabolism. And then on the other side, a lower pressure, kind of soaking up sponge version is going to be this the venous end bed of the capillaries. And so they're going to take up all that waste, right? So the capillaries, like they push that high pressure arterial blood into the tissues. And like as they do that, the dirty or the used up, I should say, waste filled plasma goes into the venous capillaries, right? And so that's how that kind of gets like that flow, right, of clean, pushes all the dirty back into the veins. And so that's the pressure. So it's also going to be taking deoxygenated blood, the like higher CO2 blood. With your CO2 can be concentrated either in the plasma or in on the hitching a ride on the red blood cells back into the veins and back up to the heart and the pulmonary circuit for freshening. Right, hormones. Okay, so also this is where we start the hormones, cytokine, cell signaling molecules can also get pushed off and perfused into the capillary bed to really reach the tissues and the organs well. So that signaling throughout the body can be messaged. So it's composed mainly of endothelium and basal lamina, meaning they're like super thin. And so we saw these like tunicas when we were talking about the larger vessels. Yeah, we're not going to see tunica systems really in the same way when we talk about the capillaries. I'm going to show you why. Places you're not going to find them, they're not going to be in a lot of connective tissues like the tendons and the ligaments. They don't really go all the way to the epithelia because remember, those are like barriers, right? The cornea of the eye is not exactly the true. It's like there's not a lot of living cells there to vascularize. So that's the lens of the eye. Also as well. So three capillary types are going to be continuous, fenestrated, and sinusoid. So like continuous capillaries, they're closed. Nothing is leaking through. It is just like a tube, like a pipe from your plumbing, hopefully. A fenestrated capillary is a little bit different. So a fenestrated capillary is like a soaker hose, right? You might use in your garden. So like some stuff might pass through a little bit. And then we have the sinusoid capillaries, which are very different. They have massive holes in them, right? Like, oh my gosh, big giant holes. And they are major drop off and pickup points in the body. Okay. So continuous capillaries are going to be transport. So we're going to go through most of the tissues. The endothelial cells are going to have some pretty tight junctions there in order to form that continuous tube. They do allow passage of a few things like, sugar and water and all that good stuff. Parasites are going to wrap around pericytes, not like parasites, sorry, wrap around the capillaries, and they contain this is really interesting protein that it contracts just like muscle because you remember some of what's important about things like stopping blood from, or I'm sorry, hemostasis is going to be that contraction step. Here is the, so remember we talked about the tunica system, right? And so like here would be the lumen and then like here would be the lumen of a capillary, right? The inside lining. And then we talked about like tunica media and tunica externa. It's like you don't really get that. You don't. Here's a parasite right here. And so these pericytes, I always say parasites, but it's not pericytes. It's my accent. I'm so sorry. I also want to say capillary. Anyway, which if you are across the pond, you can say capillary, and that is a thing. So these pericytes are like as you can see, we got some mitochondria in there. And so what the goal is to kind of support the capillaries themselves, like keep them healthy, fresh, rejuvenated, or rebuilt, should the need be there. Okay, so here's an endothelial cell. As you can see, there's like not a lot of them, and in some cases, there's like maybe one, right? Very, very thin. Usually, there might be like two or three kind of like a lot, like round about to keep them together. Tight junctions are a little connective point, or they just are just like you'd think. They're tightly like taped together at this junction or this place where they meet. Here's them relative to the site of a red blood cell, as an RBC, right? So they get pretty small. Okay. So fenestrated capillaries are a little bit different. So as you can see here, this would be like the site, look, it's got these perforations. So if you're looking at a fenestrated capillary, these little perforations, right? And so it's going to be kind of like allowing for, here's like a red blood cell, right? Smiling, red blood cell, sort of. So these are going to be ones that are going to be found in some of the organs that are important for especially filtration or absorbing, say, foods such as like, the intestines or filtration, i.e. the kidney. Endothelial cells are going to have a lot of these little like kind of holes, these perforations, and these perforations are filtration ports. There it is, fenestrations. Sorry, I don't have my glasses. Oh, that's not the right. Perforations are the fenestrations. There, right? And so it's spanned by a really thin glycoprotein layer, so it's like got a goo over it, essentially, like kind of like a gooey, mucusy kind of feel to it. And so that allows the passage of only some small molecules, and this also will slow it down, make it a little more selective. The thing is like those little fenestrations that you see here, like they're super tiny. There's no way a red blood cell is getting through there, or like a large protein, like some albumin, right? So this is mostly things like, water and like glucose, salts, that kind of stuff. The final kind is called the sinusoid capillary, and it's like got these much larger abilities to kind of like go in and go out. Let me see if I have a better picture. Nope, they use this picture. So one of the ways to think about a sinusoid capillary is having like permeable areas of like significant sizes, right? And so you're going to find these in places where we need to actually put things like RBCs into the bloodstream, right? It needs to be like, they need to have some ability to get in there. And so we're going to find this in places like the bone marrow, especially for new cells, and then like liver and spleen when we're, taking or filtering them out, especially the spleen, because remember, it is the RBC graveyard. I don't know how you can read my handwriting. I hope that's helpful. So these are considered to be very large fenestrations or openings. And they're super big. So new blood cells, again, also proteins. And so that's kind of how those operate. And that's the image they gave you. And I don't love this picture as much, but I mean, the nice thing that they're trying to illustrate here, which I think is important, is that, the endothelial cells have like more spacing between them, right? And they're going to be, butted up against a layer. In this case, they have some cuboidal type cells. But yeah, I don't love this picture. Okay, so the capillary beds are huge and they like kind of look like this lattice, and that's where they meet in the tissue. And so they're huge networks of like, lots of capillaries. And they are supplied not by like the really high pressure large arteries and veins, but like kind of the smaller ones. You remember the arterioles and the venules? Yeah, that would be it. So most of the time, what's kind of interesting is your body's capillaries are just like they're not, I would say, it's not like they're shut down and sealed. They're just like not at max capacity, if that makes sense. They're not really being like super used. And so most of that has to do with like what the blood need is or demand in that specific area, right? So like what do the arteries need to deliver? They also have these kind of interesting little doors called precapillary sphincters, and a sphincter works. Hey everybody, sorry, I'm back. My son is at Zoom school right now, and he wanted to share with me one of his wins at school, and so I had to pause for a second. Okay, so we're back talking about capillaries. So the sphincters are going to kind of like open, like and close really quickly. Like think of somebody as like tight lips, like ooh, they're whistling a song, and that's closed, and then Ooh, they're about to like eat, I don't know, a hamburger, and so your mouth would be open. So that's kind of how a sphincter tends to just in a general sense work. Okay. When the sphincters are relaxed, capillaries are going to be well perfused with blood, meaning that like when they are open, like the door is open, that's what that means by the sphincter is relaxed. And so when they contract, meaning the hole gets a little teeny tiny, it just like means it kind of cuts off mostly everything except for like maybe a little bit of plasma tops. Okay. Let's see what else. This is a capillary beds, right? So here's like a capillary bed that's open, and these are like the little sphincter doors down here, and they're all open. And then here's sphincter doors that are closed, and it doesn't mean these like go away. That just means they don't have a lot of business going on. Okay. All right, that's pretty good. Looks like we're on to veins. Okay, so I hope that was helpful, and I hope you all are having a wonderful day. Bye bye.